Next up, we have Jacqueline Martinez Garcel. And Jacqueline is the CEO of the Latino Community Foundation, whose mission is to unleash the power of Latinos in California. I'm here for that 100%. Jacqueline has led the Latino Community Foundation through a critical stage of growth and expansion. And today, this foundation leads one of the largest networks of Latino philanthropists in the country. And it's the only statewide foundation that is solely focused on investing in Latino leaders. Jacqueline is driven by a sense of urgency and justice and determination to create opportunities for Latinos to thrive economically and also be powerful in politics. So welcome, Jacqueline. Thank you for joining us.
So happy to have you. So happy to be with you this morning. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's so great to be here with you. And thank you for joining us this morning. We are ready to get it in. So listen, we just listened to Chessa talk with us about, how they are doing the work to make sure that our people stay safe and that our people get free. And I would love it if you could paint a picture for us, right, of how the Latinx community is being disproportionately impacted by COVID. We know that, Black communities and Latino communities are really at the forefront of the disparities that we're seeing around both COVID itself, but also the surrounding crises. So talk with us a little bit more and paint a picture for us. What is that looking like in the Latinx community?
Sure. Thanks, Alicia. And I have to say that you, John, Latifa this morning have all touched on this already. Our communities were suffering enormously prior to this public health crisis. And to your point, it's not just a health crisis, it's an economic one, and it's one for our democracy right now. When you look at the numbers, 1 out of 4 right now who are dying of COVID are Latinos. Here in California, it's actually 70% of 18 to 34-year-olds. So it's not just the elderly, it's people who are healthy and young, who happen to be our essential workers, who happen to be working in our groceries, either delivering food or those jobs that they can't afford to lose because that's what puts food on their table. So all of these things are intricately connected, right? So we didn't step into a public health crisis. We were in one before. And all of us in public health have been shouting and just screaming the alarms that this idea of a respiratory disease coming in and breaking havoc in our community was going to happen. This is not going to be the last time it happens. And while we're all experiencing universal vulnerability right now, the truth is that the systemic policies that have been in place are making it possible for this virus to just create havoc. And you look at the mission here in San Francisco. Recently, about 3,000 people were checked. Over 95% of the cases that came back positive for Latinos. So again, it's just about it's a burden that's being carried on top of so many others that we carry in our communities and in our nation.
Mm-hmm. So talk with us though a little bit about how citizenship is playing into this crisis. What are the impacts that either undocumented families are experiencing or mixed status families are experiencing? We know there's not just disparities in relationship to contracting the virus and dying of the virus, but also in terms of accessing protections and a safety net to help mitigate and kind of get through this crisis. So talk with us a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, I want to make sure we think of the population as a whole, right? As immigrants, documented and undocumented, right? So those essential workers include both. Yes. As far as that undocumented families, they're the ones that have been locked out of all kinds of federal and state support. When we look at all the aid that's been made available, undocumented families are not eligible for it. If you have a home with mixed status, someone who's undocumented, you're not going to qualify if you're married to someone, if one of your children are. How is that justice when these folks are putting their lives on the line to serve? When I think about what California has done, and we're thankful that our governor has been decisive and he's acted, thankful that they've set aside $75 million worth of state funds. Philanthropy is going to put another $50 million. But $125 million is not enough to cover the people who are putting food on our plate, who are picking the fruits and vegetables that we get to eat at night, who are delivering our food, who are cooking it for us. What about them? They're paying taxes. It's not like they're not paying taxes. So when we think about what needs to happen, we need to think about the policies that have locked people out of the resources that really belong to them to begin with. It is not just about a charity check that we need our families to have. We need our families to be eligible for unemployment. We need our families to be eligible for the very same programs that family members pay money into as taxpayers, to tap into that right now, and not to further exasperate the pain that these families are experiencing under the current administration in the White House. That's
absolutely right. And I'm so glad that you raised that. You know, you talked about policy, and it is so vital that when we talk about policy, we also talk about the state of our democracy, because policy, right, is ultimately what is reshaping who has power and who doesn't in this country. And we know that there's the more immediate economic and health needs that are a barrier to our communities really thinking about and engaging in the project of building other forms of political power. So with decisions that are being made at the state level more quickly and maybe with less transparency or engagement, how is it that our communities can step up to infiltrate and influence the outcomes that are happening of our political processes? Yeah,
Alicia, in a time of crisis, the scary part is that decisions are being made very quickly, and who's at that table is usually who's been most either invited or feels comfortable to be invited into that table, right? So people in power will call on the advisors that they've long leaned on, and that leaves out a big portion of the population. What I am most proud of right now is that our young people have not skipped a beat. Yeah. When I think about what happened in 2018 when with the midterm election, it was the young people who actually turned things around in places like the Central Valley, Inland Empire, and across this country. You look at places like Fresno, for example, had a 2% increase in turnout among young people. So they have tuned in. They have been already engaged. They are leading the conversation. So what I have to say to them is keep at it, right? We have to demand not just to be at the table, but let's shape that new social contract that we need right now for our country. It's on us to say it, to demand it, to write the op-eds, to send the letters to the editors, to keep tweeting about it, to vote, to organize our communities, not just to vote in November, but in every single local election that's happening in our communities. And they're doing it. They're doing it already. And so I'm inspired by it. I know that we're going to keep at it. As far as infiltrating, I say we infiltrate and we also create a new system where we become the leaders of it and lead, not only write the social contract, but lead in executing it.
That's right, 100%. Okay, so I got to ask this because I have been ranting and raving for the last couple of weeks about how I think our communities deserve more in this election season than what we're getting right now. And I'm curious to hear your perspective. You know, what do we need to do to make sure that our communities are engaged in this process and in the process of really not only making sure that we're reshaping who decision makers are, but also the process of reshaping what political and civic engagement looks like in our communities? I feel like with elections, so much of the time, it's like, we get these messages that we're not doing enough when frankly, you know, my door doesn't get knocked, right? And as somebody who's out here trying to register voters and talk to people about the things that we actually care about and not the things that get filtered to us, I just keep seeing this big gap between the way that politics functions right now and the way I feel like it needs to function for our communities to be powerful in it. So give us your best shot here. If you can wave a magic wand, right? What would a political system look like where Latinos were powerful within it?
Alicia, first of all, I want to say it's going to happen. It's happening now. The last 4 years, actually, let's go back to 2008. It's been already in the works. And you look throughout history in the 60s and the 70s, it's been the young people that have risen up to the occasion, who have demanded that they be seen, heard, and that their issues become centered. But it's a constant struggle, right? No matter if we get wins in one generation, we got to keep pushing through for the next generation to pay attention to what's happening. And we have to shift this narrative of it that young people don't care. They do care. They are engaged. But to your point, it's up to the politicians, the people running for office, to get out there, hear, listen, commune with them, walk with them, break bread with them, listen to the issues that they care about. And if the politicians are not doing that, then it's really on us to actually get up and run for office, right? To get up and take that stance and take the chance and just do it. We're seeing it too among women of color, young women of color in Texas, in Florida, in New York, up here in California. Just young people saying, all right, you're not going to listen? Well, I'm going to just take the stage and I'm going to do this for my generation, for my community, because enough is enough. But to your point right now, it's the shift in the narrative that we need to see more of. I'm tired of the stance of, well, young people aren't voting. Well, young people have not even been given a chance to say what they want their politicians to talk about when they're on they have the light, right? And it's not 8 weeks before the day of election. It's throughout, right? In between the running for offices, right? And it's also on us to invest in organizations led by people of color, Black-led organizations, Latino-led organizations who've been underinvested, because when you have Power California and California Calls with the resources that they need, there's no telling how many people will get out to vote. And we know that it's already happening in different parts of our state and our country.
That's right. Okay, we've got like 2 minutes left, and I cannot wrap this conversation up without asking you about how we sustain the momentum that we've been building for long-term engagement and transformation. Talk to me about the Latino Giving Circle.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
Yeah, Alicia. All of it has to come from the ground up. This grassroots organizing. It's not just about the organizing for voting, but it's the organizing for giving, right? So we are tired of pointing a finger to philanthropy, saying you're not investing enough in Black-led and Latino-led organizations. So we united a group of Latinos to say, let's invest our own resources and let's get together, whether it's $84 a month or $1,000. Let's just do it. Let's organize our time, our talent, our treasures, and let's invest it so that we can have strong organizations that can keep the momentum going. So how do we sustain it? We keep investing in the leadership that's already there, because there are an enormous amount of communities of colors that have the organizations in place who are trusted vessels of organizing. We need to invest in them and make sure that they become anchor organizations. I look at the movement that you've built. It's investing in that movement, and not just money, but creating the spaces so that we can bring art and culture so that people from all walks of life can be part of that movement. Because when you look at Blacks and Latinos, I mean, voting, we make up 52 million of all eligible voters. One out of every 4 voter in the United States, either Black or Latino. It's on us. We carry the day.
Listen, oh my gosh, you killed it. Thank you so much. And here's what I'm taking from what you just said, which literally gave me goosebumps. I don't know if y'all can see the hair standing up on my arm. But it's like when they're playing games, we got to have each other's backs, right? So I feel like I'm just going to like get that tatted on my forehead, because I need that kind of inspiration right now.
That's right,
Alicia. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Alicia. We don't have time to be playing games, so we're on it.